The City of Phoenix holds community budget hearings throughout April, allowing residents to comment and make suggestions on the city manager's trial budget before final decisions are made. This public discussion is among the reasons the city's budget so closely matches the community's highest priorities each fiscal year.
Hello, everyone. We're going to go ahead and start the meeting. It's now 6:02. It was scheduled to start at 6, and people know that I like to start meetings on time, if not even a little bit earlier. I want to tell you I appreciate the fact that all of you have come out. You could have easily been with your families tonight, but you chose to come out to a budget hearing to be involved in the process and to give us your opinion, and we very much appreciate that. This is just a trial budget, and that means it can change as it moves forward. And I'll give you an example. The things that occurred in last year's trial budget dealt with bike paths. That was something that somebody was interested in. We had groups of people come out. There was a rearranging that occurred. Whether you agree with them or not, it's what ended up happening because of the amount of people that came out. I'm guessing there are a lot of city employees here today. Appreciate you coming out. And I know that the restorations have been an issue. They are something that you're concerned about that you would like to see done and brought back in place through a commitment that the city gave you, I guess, a few years ago was one of the things that was discussed at the other meetings. So we'll be hearing from that. Have you all had a chance to fill out a card? All of you? Okay. And then we're going to just start off by calling the individuals. I'll have the city manager, Ed Zerker. He will go through the process and how the cards will be treated. And the only thing that we'll ask is that you be respectful to the others. Try and stay within the time limitations as much as possible. If you need a little more time, I get it. But if we could, there's cards here, and we want to just stay as respectful as possible to the other speakers. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you for hosting this in District 6 here at Madison. Thanks to our friends at Madison School District for always making this available to us for a budget hearing. My name is Ed Zerker. I'm the city manager. And as the councilman said, we're presenting tonight a trial budget which is designed to get your feedback on what we should be doing as a city and how we should be funding it and paying our employees and all that sort of thing. So just do a couple housekeeping items, and then we'll go to a video which will explain some things. So first of all, I hope you have had a chance to pick up one of these budget pamphlets. This has a lot of information in it, and it takes a little bit of time to look through. We'll actually talk a little bit from some pages in this book, so we hope you do that. If you would like to speak, as Councilman DeCiccio said, please fill out a card so we can call your name. When you speak, we'd like you to speak from up here at the microphone and the podium. It's a little intimidating to people, but we need it so people can hear, but also so our Channel 11 can record. And then this is broadcast on Channel 11 and also on the YouTube channel, so that other people can see what's happening. Tonight we actually have 3 budget hearings going on at the same time. There's one in Far West Phoenix, one down at Phoenix College, and here. So it's not possible for people to be at each one, so we make it available for others to see after the fact, and also we take minutes. I would like to recognize a couple folks. Ruben Alonso is here from Mayor Stanton's office. I saw him somewhere. Oh, Ruben is here representing Mayor Stanton. I'd also like to recognize all of our city employees who are here, if they're here as city employees. So thank you all for being here and for the staff. If there are individual questions, we can get you hooked up with individual city employees to answer those questions. This is the trial budget. There will be a proposed budget following up on this May 3rd to the City Council, and then the City Council would vote on it on May 17th. This is a very complex budget this year because we're dealing with 3 things at the same time. Number one, we have a budget for a city of Phoenix, which is a $3 billion corporation. So just doing a $3 billion budget is complicated. The second thing is, and many of you are here to speak about that, we're currently negotiating labor contracts with our city unions. We have 5 city unions and 2 associations. And we're in negotiations with them about how much money to restore from concessions made before. The third thing that's happening, and it'll be explained for the first part of the video, is we're at the end of about a 20-year policy related to our property taxes. And so it'll be explained, but for 20 years, the city of Phoenix has had a property tax rate that's been fixed at the same amount, $1.82. We're now at the point where we have to decide how to deal with the fact that property values dropped and we were paying for our expenses with some money we had saved before. That money is now about to its end. And so the question is, how do we want to keep paying for the things that we're doing going forward? Do we want to raise property taxes? Are there other taxes people would prefer instead of property taxes? Or if you don't prefer taxes at all, what should we stop doing in order to pay for the things that we need to continue to do? Those are all explained in this budget document on page 5, and it'll be described in the video. And then there are options for the budget, which is also new this year, to give people choices to tell us about. So if you don't like something or you do like something and you're able to refer to one of the options, that's really helpful to us as well. But we're here to listen to you tonight. As the councilman said, we want to hear from you. So we're going to try to explain what's going on with video, and then we will go to cards. We'll ask, as the councilman said, for no more than 3 minutes so that we have a chance to give everybody a chance to speak this evening. So thanks so much, and we'll hit the video. And the councilman's mentioned, if you're able to put your cell phones on mute or vibrate, that would be greatly appreciated. Thanks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to your first look at the City of Phoenix 2016-17 City Manager's Trial Budget.
Input from our residents is very important, as your ideas can help shape what will end up being the final budget for the next fiscal year.
The final budget is important because it provides the plan for how the city will spend taxpayer money and how services that you depend on could be impacted.
I think the city manager's trial budget provides a great pathway for us to continue providing the outstanding services that Phoenix residents expect, and it gives employees the opportunity to continue to provide that great service every day.
Why is a balanced budget important? It's required by state law and city charter. In this trial budget, there is a $60 million surplus that can be used to improve essential services that will benefit the community. Examples include public safety needs, employee compensation, and restoration of some programs and services. So how does the funding work? Funding for the city budget comes from 3 sources: the general fund, enterprise funds, and special revenue funds. Examples of general fund city departments include police, fire, the library, parks and recreation, and streets. Enterprise fund departments include aviation, water services, solid waste services, and the convention center. Special revenue funds account for designated sources of money for a specific purpose, like sales tax dollars for the hiring of police officers and firefighters, and funds for public transit.
So how did we get here? Under the leadership of the mayor and city council, we are glad to say the budget is balanced.
The mayor and city council have really set the tone and direction for our city staff and employees to be focused on innovation and efficiency.
Here's just some of the ways that happened. First, eliminating 119 vacant positions and other administrative savings actions that will result in an overall savings of just over $11 million. Second, there is a one-time carryover of $25 million from last year's surplus. Also, the city is saving by making needed adjustments to the Workers' Compensation Fund and has sold extra police helicopters that were too expensive to maintain. Did you know that Phoenix has reduced administrative expenses and has the smallest number of employees per capita in over 40 years? And while still providing great services, the city has reduced authorized staffing levels by more than 2,700 positions. That is 16% since 2007. Also, city staff is constantly finding innovative ways to save money. Did you know that since 2010, we have saved $106 million in taxpayer funding? Some examples: the municipal court. It saved almost $600,000 by eliminating a criminal courtroom and a civil courtroom due to lower court volume. Plus, a new process with copy services. By reducing the number of printers and copiers citywide and securing more competitive rates with copy contracts, the city should save hundreds of thousands of dollars each year. Now to rising pension costs, which continue to be an important issue. Thanks to the leadership of the mayor and city council and actions taken by voters, the savings from reform efforts will reach $1.1 billion over a 23-year period. And what a difference a year makes. Last year's 5-year forecast projected a deficit of up to $58 million. But with guidance from the mayor and council and the efficient work of city staff, that deficit was eliminated without reducing services to the community.
Mayor and council also expect us to provide great service, and that's what the city employees work to do every day.
One of the biggest challenges the city faces has to do with how the city will continue to make its debt payments for voter-approved capital projects.
We're at a place where we need to make tough choices, like any of us during the recession, where you may have lost a job or your wife may have lost their job and your income changed and your bill stayed the same. So the city of Phoenix is at that point now.
Several options will be discussed, including increasing Phoenix's combined property tax rate. Phoenix has had the same rate for 20 years. That means since 1995, residents have paid $1.82 per $100 of assessed value for property tax. The rate has gone unchanged while the city's population grew and important services developed, like new fire stations, parks, and libraries. The city has been using a reserved fund to help pay off that debt. This has relieved homeowners from increases in property tax rates, especially during the recession.
What other cities in the valley, after the recession, they started to, when their assessed valuation changed, the values of their properties changed, they started to float their rate up and down so that they levied the same amount of money, brought in the same amount of income. What the city of Phoenix did, we thought that we would give our taxpayers relief. So we kept the rate at $1.82.
In the meantime, the city had debt to pay, so a reserve fund was used. This relieved homeowners from increases in property tax rates, especially during the recession. But now that well of backup money is finally running dry, and the city needs to raise an additional $37 million to pay the debt service. Otherwise, Phoenix's strong credit rating could take a hit.
We are taking in less money, and now we still have the same payments. Our payment on our mortgage is essentially our debt service. That's what we have to continue making. At the same time, we have other sources or other services that we provide. Those costs have also increased, and our ability to make those payments has gotten tougher and tougher.
The budget lays out 5 ways to solve this. A detailed explanation of these options are in the trial budget summary booklet, handed out at all public meetings and online at phoenix.gov/budget. Option number 1, increase the combined property tax rate by 35 cents to $2.17. This would equal an additional $4.25 per month on an average single-family home, about 14 cents a day. Even at this rate, the average single-family homeowner will still be paying less than they did back in 2009.
We could continue to provide services, infrastructure, pay our debt at the lowest, cheapest possible cost, and maintain a very strong bond rating, and to provide our citizens with good services for many years to come.
Option number 2, generate $37 million in other ways by increasing a local sales tax, a food tax, or perhaps an addition to your city services bill. Option number 3, use all of the $60 million surplus to provide property tax relief for 2 years. That means no money would be available to restore employee concessions or add community services, including those cut in previous years. Now keep in mind, with this option, the city would still need to find a solution to this problem in 2 years, and this could hurt the city's strong credit rating. Option number 4, use some of the surplus money to provide tax relief for 1 more year, along with some of our reserve funds. But the issue will have to be addressed again next year. Now, with this option, the city could improve some proposed services, but not all. And this option could hurt the city's strong credit rating.
Some of these other options are short-term, which means they're only going to provide a solution for 1 year, maybe 2 years. And it really is just kicking the can down the road, and we will be back in this situation in a couple of years asking for a solution from our citizens.
Option number 5, cut $37 million from the general fund by making significant cuts that would directly affect the city's ability to serve residents and business owners. The city manager has outlined $44 million in services from which to choose. This includes cutting $14 million from the police department, $10 million from the fire department, more than $2 million in library services, and $6 million from the city's Parks and Recreation Department. In a service business like the city, dollars translate into the people who provide the services, like 911 response, recreation programs, senior and youth services, and more.
Since 2010, we've been drawing down our fund balance reserve for our GO bonds, and we're at the end of that. So this is the last year that we can use that reserve to pay our debt service.
How will the city tackle this debt service situation for the long term? The plan is to refund and restructure bonds as long as rates remain where they are now. Until then, one of the mentioned 5 options must happen in order to pay the city's debt service for the facilities we've built. This is critical in order to keep the city's strong credit rating, which lets the city borrow money at a low interest rate to fund projects that are important to you. A look at these 5 options are on page 5 of your trial budget summary booklet.
Here's a look at the new services proposed in the trial budget. Many residents feel that protecting the public should be the city's top priority. The mayor and council agree it's critically important to keep everyone safe. That's why public safety and criminal justice amounts to 72% of the general fund in this trial budget. The new budget adds $2.4 million for the first year of a 3-year, $11 million plan for Phoenix police officers to start using body cameras.
Well, body cameras mean a lot of things. Safety is one of them, transparency is one of them, trust is another thing. For our residents, it allows them to have greater confidence in their police department.
The budget will also allow the department to hire a director of employee assistance and wellness.
Our employees are our most valuable asset. We need to make sure we take care of our employees. By hiring this position, it allows us to do that.
Now to the fire department. The budget would spend $2.8 million in one-time costs to replace the obsolete Emergency Transportation Billing System, known as EPCR.
We are the last large city in the state of Arizona to move forward with EPCR.
Electronic records will let our paramedics spend more time on patient care and less time on paperwork, and make payments from insurance carriers more efficient.
The latest technology for us to do our jobs more efficiently, protect the information of the community, bill efficiently so the taxpayers are getting revenue back into the pockets in order to provide services to the city of Phoenix.
The budget also calls for spending $1 million to begin rebuilding the road to North Mountain, along with fixing the radio tower to make it meet industry standards. The radio tower is critical to the city's public safety radio system. Now, to dedicated public safety special revenue funds. Because these funds will be balanced next year, the budget includes the hiring of 130 police officers in 2016-2017.
Other than 2015, we hadn't hired any police officers for almost 6 years.
The council also approved a plan to hire 36 firefighters next fiscal year.
We have been fortunate over the last couple of years to be able to hire minimal amounts of firefighters. This will allow us to fill all of our vacancies.
Now, let's look at dedicated Phoenix Parks and Preserves initiative funds. Money would be used to maintain new dog parks, recreation centers, and playing fields. From the Development Services Fund, which is paid for by building permit and inspection fees, is this proposal. The city is seeing a huge spike in construction, which is great news. To keep up with demand, the budget calls for adding 8 new positions to meet the needs of all the growth. Out of the Solid Waste Special Enterprise Funds, the trial budget calls for adding 15 positions and equipment needed to support curbside green organics, diversion, and illegal dumping programs. This will ensure that Phoenix continues to be a national leader in keeping waste out of city landfills. The budget calls for a few additions that directly will help the members of our community. They include new funding to support the city's continued effort to get veterans off the streets and back on their feet.
So the proposed funding will support peer navigators who help veterans living on the street make all the connections they need to make to get into housing and stay housed.
And money to add staff and supplies for after-school programs for disengaged youth.
This funding would really allow us to increase our programming by offering STEM programs, physical activities, as well as interaction between the youth and adults in many of our city parks.
Looking ahead, One of the biggest challenges to the general fund continues to be the cost of employee pensions. The trial budget reflects an increase of $15 million in civilian employee pension costs. But since the mayor and city council took action on pension reform and the voters made their voices heard, these short-term increases will slow over time with a savings of more than $1 billion over the next 2 decades. Now to the police and fire pensions, which will go up $21 million. This is the result of a state Supreme Court decision. Increases in future years are partly because of other pending court challenges and system funding issues. Also, proposed reforms could help reduce how much the city will pay in the future. Then there's employee compensation. For 6 years, city employees have been part of the shared solution of our budget issues, agreeing to almost 6% in cuts to compensation. 4.2% of that is still in effect. The trial budget proposes to responsibly restore some of it, 2.6%, or $44 million, over the next 2 years. This is an investment in our most valuable resource, the workers. As a service business, the city depends on good workers to provide outstanding services. Keep in mind, the budget hasn't been adopted just yet. Your input is important, and the City of Phoenix wants to hear from you on what the upcoming budget should look like.
The budget is really for the people of Phoenix, and so for it to be the best budget possible, it needs to reflect what people have to tell us. And that's why we're out to listen to the residents in the trial budget.
In summary, the trial budget has several options, including solving the debt service issue by raising the combined property tax by 35 cents to $2.17. This would allow the city to use surplus money to add critical services to our police, fire, and other city departments. It would also allow the city to restore some concessions made by city workers 6 years ago.
15 public hearings will take place this month across all council districts, and you are encouraged to attend. Make sure you pick up a budget pamphlet outlining all the proposals and options at any of the public meetings or online at phoenix.gov/budget. You can also send your comments or questions to budget.research@phoenix.gov, or to reach us by phone, call 602-262-4800. You can also comment on social media by using #PhoenixBudget. Thank you for attending this budget hearing and being part of a very important process. The City of Phoenix is committed to its mission of improving the quality of life in Phoenix through the efficient delivery of outstanding public services.
All right, we'll get the lights. Again, we have your cards. If you got here late and you'd like to speak, please fill out a card and they'll bring it to us. We ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes. We have about 15 cards, so if everybody takes their 3 minutes, that's about 45 minutes. And we're here to listen to what you want to tell us about the budget. And so we will start, and again, we ask you to come to the microphone so we can capture it for Channel 11. And we'll start with Jay Swart.
Thank you, Mr. Zerker, Councilman Saliciccio. As Mr. Zerker said, I'm Jay Swart. I'm a 58-year resident of this district, and I hope, like all of you, I'm extremely proud of the city that I live in. And although I'd love to talk about many of the different divisions in the city, with 3 minutes, I'm going to focus on the public safety, something near and dear, I think, to most people's heart. You know, when we watch the news nationally, we see all the things happening. I have people often say to me, you know, how come the city of Phoenix doesn't have riots? How come the city of Phoenix has got low crime? And as I mentioned to you, like all of you, that's because we've got, in my opinion, probably the best public safety, both in fire and in the police department in this country. And all of us should be proud of that and realize that sometimes because we don't need those services or we haven't had to call ourselves, we forget about the job that they do every day and the important things that they do for our families, for our friends, and for this city of Phoenix. You know, the question of the issue of riots and things that you've seen in other communities, I think that the City of Phoenix Police Department, I want to just take a moment and tell you, probably has one of the most extensive community-based policing programs. And because of that, it gives them the opportunity, before these things erupt, before these things happen, they're able to communicate with the neighborhood leaders, which many have here tonight, and get to the root of the problem, and many times de-escalate these things before they erupt into, like you've seen many places across the country. So I'm here actually tonight to ask the city manager, to ask the council, and hopefully with the support of many other residents of the city of Phoenix, that in 2010, the police department and the fire department willingly came to the table, even though they had a contractual agreement, and gave back percentage, I think it was 4.6%. They've gone many, many years with impossible situations, with low staffing, lack of equipment, and have worked incredibly hard to get us where we are today. And now that we have a budget that I think is realistic and that we have money, it's time for all of us to support our fire and police officers and ask the council and ask our leaders to restore the 4.2%, and I hope that they'll give another percent on top of that. These folks have earned it, they've worked hard. I'm not a believer in just giving raises to people just because, or letting someone know that every year they're going to get a 3% raise. If you look straight across the board, I know I've talked a lot about the police department, but I can also tell you the same thing goes for the fire department. I had a fire at my home, and they deployed. It was in a unique situation. Without them, I would have lost everything in my home. And on top of that, they were able to, while they were on the scene, identify that the fire caused as a result of defective battery in a car, which meant that then the Exide Corporation became liable for that instead of my own insurance, which was very helpful to me. But it's just one example that sometimes we don't realize it till we need those services. So my hope is that all of you will join me tonight, and that you'll have your friends write to the city, to your city council member, and support me in the efforts. I see a lot of neighborhood leaders. I consider myself a neighborhood leader, but I just think it's so important that you hear this message, not only from someone that's retired from law enforcement, but I've been here 58 years. I know what good public safety is, and as I've traveled all over the place, people often ask me the questions about how is it so good? And I think it's because of great leadership and a tremendous commitment. These individuals go into these situations never thinking about what they make, but how they can serve us. So I went past my time. Thank you.
Next is Richard Ray, and Richard will be followed by Jennifer Lippman, who did not wish to speak. Jennifer just said, please, the 4.2% concessions taken by police and fire need to be restored. Thank you, Jennifer. Richard will be followed by, who else wanted to speak here? Matt Engel.
I echo the statements that were made by Jay, and he's absolutely right, but I want to extend it a little bit farther. It's not just the public safety people, which are incredibly important and the one that most directly relates to us and our own well-being. It's everybody that works for the city of Phoenix. Now, I recognize that there is an issue. I recognize that 6 years ago we had a big issue, $277 million. But now we're back to the place where there should be a way that we can do it. Now, I understand that there have been statements made that it is impossible now, that there is waste. But I'm not sure that I identify where this waste is identified by other people. I think that I can tell that there have been tremendous things done by the workers of the city of Phoenix who've been working under the same restraints as everybody else, and this needs to be brought back. When we're talking about a tenth of our entire budget, over $330 million, which is going into pensions, that's not something that anybody can do anything about. So what is important is for us to buck up, if you will, but let's start to pay for those things and those services that we're using. Tonight, we rode here on the streets. Almost everything that is being done, not almost, everything that's being done in the city of Phoenix is being done at the request of or the behest of somebody. maybe perhaps not you, maybe not me, but by somebody, whether it be libraries or streets or whatever. And it's important that we pay for what it is. Far more important, or equally important to me, is the fact that in failing to do this, we run the risk that we run out of our reserve. If we don't have that reserve, and if interest rates begin to rise, and I don't think there's anybody that can tell you what's going to happen with inflation or what's going to happen to our economy, but if rates start to rise, the ability to refinance is going to be made much more difficult. It's going to be a giant problem for everybody in here, and the dollar figure and the money that's going to be required for interest and principal payments is going to be far greater. So it's important that we start to pay for the things that we are incurring and enjoying, and let's go forward and get it done. And so, Ed, I'd really like to see, and I know you don't agree with me, but, not Ed, I know you don't agree with me, but I would really like to see that this would be passed and get through so that we can do it the right way for all of the employees, not just the guys that put out the fires. I had a house fire too. Not the people that protect us, but it's everybody, because we're all in this together. Thank you. And I know you don't. That's all right.
Thank you, Richard. Mia Rodriguez did not wish to speak, but is writing in support of police and firefighters needing to be restored by the 4.2%. Corina Enrique also did not wish to speak, but says police and firefighters need to be restored by 4.2%. Matt Engel did wish to speak, and Matt will be followed by Tom Coretto.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Matt Engel. I'm a resident of District 6, and first of all, let me say I'm also very proud of the job that the Phoenix Police and Fire Department does. I think it's a real model for any big city, and so I echo some of the comments that have already been made. I'm here to talk briefly about arts and culture, though, because I think that's something that sometimes doesn't get the attention that some of the other issues might get in the news and so on. First of all, I'm a member of the Phoenix Arts and Culture Commission, although I'm speaking here on my own behalf. But I would like to thank the Council for its past support for the Arts and Culture Grants Program and other initiatives of the Arts and Culture Commission, which are for over 30 years have championed the development, promotion, and sustainability of Phoenix's vibrant cultural community. And I want to urge the City Council to support the city manager's budget recommendations, options 1 or 2, which includes a revenue increase, as well as the city manager's proposal to partially restore some of the previously made cuts to the Arts and Culture Grants Program. If options 1 and 2 are not approved, then I would not support cuts to the cultural facilities management and property management services, which would negatively impact the Phoenix Art Museum and Phoenix Theater and the Children's Museum of Arizona. And I just want to point out that the arts are very important, and I would hope that people here tonight partake in the Phoenix Symphony or the Art Museum or all the wonderful things we have here. But even if you don't, even if it's not your thing for whatever reason, simply from an economic point of view, it's a wonderful thing and a real economic driver for the city. A lot of people don't realize that the arts and culture is a $300 million local industry. It generates about $14 million in annual local tax revenue and creates nearly 10,000 full-time equivalent jobs in Phoenix. And last but certainly not least, when businesses are looking for where to set up shop or relocate or open up a new facility, they look for obviously public safety and things like that, but they also look for a vibrant cultural community for their employees to enjoy. And so it's just one of those factors that helps economically as well as just enriches the community as a whole. So I urge the support for option 1 and 2, and thank you very much.
Tom Coretto is next, and Tom will be followed by Scott Safranca.
Good evening. Whoa. My name's Tom Coretto. I grew up in District 6, graduated Sunny Slope High School, and actually own a home just north of Northern here. I'm here tonight to talk about not just police and fire, which I'm proud to say I'm a Phoenix firefighter with over 9.5 years of service in the city. But I got my start with the city of Phoenix as a lifeguard 20 years ago. This isn't just about restoring the pay and benefits to the guys who are first responders, but it's about taking care of all of our employees because that's what makes this city great. The high school kids that work at the pool, the college kids that work at the community centers, and the people that help retirees also. We're all important, not just police and fire, but all city employees. So we'd really appreciate your support of options 1 or 2. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Officer Scott Safranca will be followed by Greta Rogers.
Evening. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Officer Scott Safranca. I'm a Phoenix police officer. On December 31st, 2013, I was shot in the line of duty and fatally, or nearly fatally wounded, obviously, because I'm standing here. But I recall having these same discussions approximately 2 years ago, and yet here we are again for another contract and facing cuts and broken promises. It seems the city over the last 2 years, while increasing revenue, still cannot find a way to fully restore that which was given up by first responders. Over the course of the last 6 years, we have given up approximately 6% of total compensation, and only a small portion of that has been returned. We are still 4.2% down from those concessions and still being asked to do more with less every day. Our combined cuts have saved close to $500 million for the city, which allowed the city to save programs and continue to provide needed services. Many of those that work for the city, including myself, also live here and feel the same pain, same challenges, and same struggles that the regular residents of Phoenix face. We still continue to be short-staffed in all our departments, and recruiting will not be easy with any further cuts. Phoenix used to draw top recruits because of the pay and because of the benefits. But now we face some who want to take away part of our retirement, part of our holiday pay, and even regular days of work without pay. These policies will no longer allow us to draw these recruits. They will go to other cities who can outbid and frankly offer them more than we can. First responders face more danger than ever by continuing to be short-staffed. Injuries to first responders are on the rise, placing more of a burden on others. Detectives are asked to return to patrol to fill gaps taken away from cases. The city reduces the number of officers available on holiday when it should increase all to save money. But all this does is increase risk of tragedy for not only the citizens, but the first responders as well. The city currently has budgeted $173,000 for a wellness program coordinator. Those positions already exist in the department. They just need funding and the right people in place. People who understand what first responders face and who they will trust and listen to. The city has spent over $200,000 on an ASU professor, but no money on an expert to speak on PTSD and other mental health issues. The city and department continue to fail to use resources and help offered in these areas by employees who are speaking out on it. Over the years, I have heard a lot about how we will be taken care of. Well, here I am. I may not be able to sit in a patrol car any longer, but I can perform every other task that a first responder and an officer can. We also have heard promises to restore wages and benefits. I have heard a lot of things, but the city cannot get something as simple as allowing an officer who is critically injured in the line of duty the use of a service dog while continuing to serve the city I so bravely protected and would do again. How can we trust that the city will take care of the budget for all of those who live in Phoenix? So I implore you, reinstate the 4.2% we are owed to make us whole. While $44 million in total monies may seem like a lot, it's a small price to pay for the men and women who risk everything to protect this city. So during this budget period, my choice is option 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Greta Rogers will be followed by Neil Haddad.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Greta Rogers, and I reside at the south end of the barbell of District 6. I have gone to several of the meetings since they began, and I have a couple of more to attend throughout the city. And I'm doing this to bring the same message to each and every one of you. I concur with Officer Safranek. The 4.2% that is owed to the employees of the city of Phoenix, all of them, is to be restored in full. No options, no questions asked. You made a promise 6 years ago. You said you would make them whole as soon as you were able. In a $3 billion plus budget, you can make them whole. And nothing else will be acceptable. I also want to say that I support, without reservation, the increase in the paltry city property tax the city has, which is the lowest of any city in this country. I looked at cities 500K and up, and we're at the bottom. I didn't go below 500K. I've had other people tell me it goes below 500K, Greta. That's disgusting. In a city that is number 6 in population in the nation, and at the bottom of the poll on support for the city with a tax rate of 182. This new tax rate of 35 cents is paltry, but I support it. In my opinion, it should be $1. 35 cents will add $4.25 to each increase in the property tax rate for the city of Phoenix. One parent and a kid spends more than that at McDonald's on one visit to eat fat, starch, and adulterated sugar. No benefit to the body, but they go home feeling full, and they do it frequently enough, and they look like globes. Our councilman very vocally the other night at the meeting at Pecos Community Center in Ahwatukee spent 4 minutes expounding on his disapproval of the property tax and that he won't support it. Sal DiCiccio should be ashamed, but he's not. He's a shameless person. Don't follow a poor example. Follow your best reasoning and your best judgment and support this proposal, and ask other councilmen to do the same if you have the opportunity to talk with them. It's the right thing to do. When I met with Ed in January, this was the number one thing, not property tax, but restoration of employee salaries, 100%. Number 2 was restore police and fire within 2 years. That's from July 1st of 16 through June 30th of 18 to full complement in both departments. They deserve nothing less. And number 3, fund to the street transportation department a realistic budget so they can begin a plan for restoration, rebuilding, restructuring our streets to national transportation safety standards, particularly in the center city from Northern to Baseline and 32nd to 59th Avenue. These are essentials, they aren't options. Thank you.
Neil Haddad. Neil will be followed by former Councilman Craig Tribkin.
Thank you. Good to be here tonight. Thanks for hosting this tonight. Greta, it's always great following you. Greta, pay attention. Come on. So, budget is a roadmap to priorities. And what are our priorities as a community? When the budget crisis came in 2010, we heard in the video, we heard from other speakers that public safety employees led the way and offered to take a voluntary cut of 6%. And that was in the contracts that the city was obligated to uphold and honor. And so employees took the cuts, and again, as has been mentioned, they were told that when things got better, that the cuts would be restored. And also, Officer Safranca mentioned before that those cuts have saved the city and its residents $500 million. Billion with a B. So to me, that's incredible. Thanks to the employee concessions, increases in state revenue sources, the city of Phoenix is now on much more sound financial footing. And now is the time to restore the cuts from 6 years ago. So in the opening video, there was a reference to the pension reform that will save a lot of money over a 20-year period. And it makes sense to recognize that effort. But what the video doesn't mention is what will be on the ballot next month. Proposition 124 will trim cost of living adjustments for public safety officers across the state. As I understand it, the fiscal impact will be felt in 3 or 4 years. So once again, we need to recognize and thank public safety officials for identifying and providing another solution to bring down costs in order to avoid a crisis. So just like in 2010, when employees suggested a solution and took a pay cut, they're again providing a solution and taking a pay cut. So back to my original question, what are our priorities? We talk about the importance of our employees. We talk about how the City of Phoenix is a service organization and how we're providing excellent service. We can talk about it, or we can acknowledge that our employees are our priority. We can acknowledge that more than half a decade of belt tightening has had a significantly negative effect on our employees. We can demonstrate what our priorities are by passing over items that are on our collective wish list. And we can demonstrate our priorities by restoring all the compensation cuts to employees and adding a 1% raise in recognition of the 6 years of sacrifice. Demonstrate that our priorities are with our employees. Thanks.
Craig Tripkin will be followed by Roger Peck.
Thank you. I'm here to support option 1 or 2. I'm here on behalf of the Regional Homeless Shelter, Central Arizona Shelter Services. CAS serves over 4,700 unduplicated individuals in 1 year, and 62% of those people leave after 3 weeks. So I think we've got a good track record of having services that stop people from being homeless very quickly. Homelessness is sort of a pay me now, pay me later kind of situation. If services are cut, we will have, well, let me back up. A significant portion of the fire department and police department calls are relating to homeless people. A significant portion of the emergency room calls are relating to homeless people. So we're really in a pay me now, pay me later kind of situation. And the proposed budget, if we don't accept option 1 or 2, cuts CAS by $52,000 in a year. The regional homeless shelter will be cut by $52,000, which is a 25% cut over where CAS was, Central Arizona Shelter Services was about 8 years ago. This is both a public safety and humanitarian issue. Like I say, a significant portion of the police department calls and fire department calls do go relating to homeless people. And so I ask you to support option 1 or 2 and retain our homeless services in the city of Phoenix. Thank you.
Roger Peck is next. Chris Crowley submitted a card, did not wish to speak, but advocated to restore pay for police and fire. Tom Henry also did not wish to speak, but advocated to restore police and fire departments' pay and benefits. So we have Roger Peck, and Roger will be followed by Tim Gamage.
Okay, thank you. I'm here tonight to really wearing 2 hats. As a citizen of the city of Phoenix for the last 35 years, I think Jim was 56 years, and also as the current chairman of the board for our City of Phoenix Parks and Recreation Department. I want to thank Ed and the budget group for putting together, at least in my interpretation, a very comprehensive trial budget. What you have in your hands is a summary. The entire budget is online. I think it's about 146 pages long. And unlike Nancy Pelosi that said, let's pass it so we can read it and understand what's in it, I read it. And there's an awful lot of information in there. So do read some of the research. If you want to see really where the money's going, it's all there. It's not in the summary. We can't keep kicking the can down the road. Anybody here has played poker, you know that the dealer always says the pot's right, and you got to make the pot right. And we need to do that. I believe very sincerely that we've got to reimburse and reset the fire, the police, and our parks. You know, nobody wants any of this stuff cut. If you look at your booklets on page 24 to 25, just open that up for a second here. The reductions to the Parks Department are projected to be $6.6 million in order to make that $37 million bogey, and this is option 5. I hope nobody here is in favor of it. But the first thing is elimination of 11 swim and 6 diving teams, reducing the recreation teen centers, closing 8 of the 11 year-round and 2 summer-onlys, closing 11 of the 29 pools, and the list goes on, guys. This is absolutely lunacy. So we've got to find a way to make this thing right and have the people contribute where they need to contribute. Now, parks in 2008, you folks here approved an initiative called 3PI. Is everybody familiar with that terminology? Okay, I know Greta is. It's the Parks Preserves, Phoenix Parks and Preserves Initiative, and you approved 1/10 of 1% of our sales tax to be identifiable to go to the capital development and building of our parks and improvements. Let me put that into a relationship of the dollars and cents. How many of you have gone to a Circle K and left a couple of pennies on the table for the next person to come in? Raise your hand. How many people have pennies in their pockets? I mean, you look at them, they're almost a nuisance of it, unless you get a couple of hundred of them to put them out. 1/10 of 1%, or 1 cent of every $10 spent, is funding almost all of the capital improvements and developments for the City of Phoenix Parks and Department. That's about $28 to $30 million. We have more things on the budget than we know what to do with. We have projects that are master plans for the last 15 years, and we can't access because we don't have the capital to do it. Maybe this is the time also to be looking at increasing the 3PI funding. Take 1 cent and make it 2 cents, and we can show you really what we can do. I approve either section or option 1 or 2. My preference would be 2. I think on average, the number 1 is an average figure, and if you put your head in the refrigerator and your feet in the oven, on average, you're comfortable. Well, if you do it for the city tax or the addition to it, you can make a combination at $5.25. I think that's $63 per year, if I'm correct. And everybody will not be paying the $4 and some odd cents because it's an average figure that you're dealing with. Thank you very much.
Tim Gamage will be followed by Greg Hawk.
Hello, I'm Tim Gamage. As he said, I am a 9-year firefighter for the city of Phoenix, as well as a lifetime resident. I'm a second-generation city employee. And my family's been working for the city of Phoenix for the last 50 years. Somebody with the last name Gamage has been a city employee. I'm up here to try to put a face to these numbers. If you go back to 2010, I was a 3-year firefighter, single, no family. 2016, I have a wife and 2 kids sitting right there. With that comes a lot of money, as I'm sure most of you know that have children. This 6% cut, really, if you put in inflation into it, they say it's 15 to 18%. It costs me $1,000 a month for my kids to go to daycare so my wife and I can go to work. That's $1,000. That's way more than that 6% that was cut from all city employees. I am a firefighter, but what the park people do is wonderful. The water department, police, everybody. And we all have families that we need to take care of. We need to do what we need to do to get every employee, whether they're police, fire, or whoever, in a position to where they can take care of their families. These aren't just numbers, these are people. So I would ask that you return the 4.2% to all employees. We all, not just police and fire, gave up money to put our city, because I think most of our employees live in this city, in a better position, which we are in today. So my kids need that money back, please. Thank you.
Greg Hawk is next, and Greg will be followed by John Webb.
Hi there. My name's Greg Hawk. I've been here in the city of Phoenix since 1983. Proud city of Phoenix resident. Also a very proud member of the Phoenix Fire Department. I've been a career firefighter for almost 30 years now, most of that with the city of Phoenix. I was going to come up here and run a bunch of numbers by you guys, but you've all heard them. First off, what I want to do is thank you all for coming out, and thank you for showing your support for us. Mr. Schwartz really nailed it on the head, and more than anything, thank you for being here for that. So we've heard a lot of numbers come around and be shot around back and forth at some of these council meetings. One of the interesting ones is our call volume as Phoenix firefighters has shot up like 40,000 calls in the last year. To put that in perspective for you guys, that's like 800 calls a week more that we're running than we were a few years ago. And that's happening in your backyard. I live in District 2 now. I see the direct effects of that all the time. Like a lot of firefighters, I was a fire pal here at Madison Simon School for a long time as a young firefighter, and I absolutely loved it. A lot of us are fire pals. We give back to the community. We're coaches, we're mentors, we're Little League assistant coaches. We donate time in schools and everything else, and we make it work. We respond to needs for the community. When we're on fire trucks and when we're in police cars and you guys need us, we come. That's what happened when the budget cuts came in 2010. We stepped up, we broke our contract, and I know firefighters and police officers from San Diego to New York City, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know a handful of departments nationwide that would have made that commitment to their city. Nowhere, probably nowhere. It's probably only a couple of them that would even consider doing that nationwide. And the police officers and firefighters of the city of Phoenix did that to save the city. This is the Southwest. I don't know what happened, or we do know what happened, when you crawfished a deal in the old Southwest, Wild Wild West, we know what happened then, right? Now, you just lose a lot of respect, because that's really what it's come down to. Really, I'm asking for full restoration of our pay and benefits here, and the same thing goes for the rest of the departments that have come up here and had something to say. I'm a strong supporter of the arts in the city of Phoenix. And I'm up here speaking like Gamage is here, a parent. There's a lot of firefighters that you don't hear mentioned in there. Single family parents, primary custodial parents that raise kids on their days off, working 2 and 3 jobs. Thank you very much, so they can make sure their kids are involved in after-school swim programs, swim teams, arts, plays, acting, whatever it happens to be, to keep them committed to doing the right thing for places like the city of Phoenix. Like I said, I know what happened in the old Wild West when you used to crawfish a deal, and now we need it back. We shook on it. Grandfather taught me, when you shake hands on a deal, that was the deal. Thank you. One last thing I want to add, as I mentioned, I've got friends coast to coast, police, fire departments from San Diego to New York City. The city of Phoenix, hands down, no one even close, has the relationship that fire department and police officers do nowhere. The bond between us is closer than any other bond that you'll see nationwide. Thank you, officers in the back. Thank you.
John Webb is next. While John's coming up, Britt London did not wish to speak, but said restore pay and benefit cuts as promised, support property tax. And John will be followed by Abar Visu Jr.
I'm going to try and read slowly for you guys, a little nervous. My name's John Webb. I'm a resident of Phoenix and a proud city employee. I've been employed with the city for almost 4 years. I work in our make-ready shop. We're a small two-man shop that is responsible for every new piece of city equipment that we get, as well as accidents. At any given time during the week, we have over 40 vehicles in the accident repair process, and 50 plus new vehicles getting outfitted on the road. All of the new police units that have hit the streets, me and my one fellow shop employee have taken care of in our make-ready shop. We used to have 6 employees doing this job. Through the cuts, we're now down to 2. We love serving our community. We take pride in our first responders. Every department in the city is responsible for public safety, one way or another. Make Ready repairs all of the damaged police vehicles and fire vehicles. Water Services makes sure the residents have clean drinking water that provides millions of gallons of water to the Palo Verde Nuclear Power Plant to keep the reactors cool. The street departments provide safe roads for the police and fire to drive on when they're responding to emergency calls. Neighborhood Services takes care of blight and graffiti. In closing, I would like to remind the citizens that more cuts to employees, In closing, I would like to remind the citizens that more cuts to employees means more cuts to services that we love to provide. Please keep this in mind when you tell your council person how you would like them to handle the budget. Concessions affects us all. Thank you.
Abar Visu Jr. will be followed by William Bakehouse.
How you doing, boss? I'm a city employee going on 30 years, but I as a firefighter damage, correct? I wanted to put a face with that, just like he did, because I did 20 years as a civilian volunteer with the fire department. I'm a 36-year Scoutmaster. I've done Little League. I'm also on the board of directors of the 3rd largest nonprofit Hispanic organization in the United States. I wanted to put a face to a city employee. We're here just to ask for what we gave up to help balance the budget, so all of us can have the things that we all love and look forward to. So I hope that you will consider the taxes, as it was said tonight. I'm not going to bring up the pricing and the dollar amounts. You've heard it all, and you can read it. We're still the lowest in property tax. Even if we raised it even more to make up our full restoration, it's not going to hurt us, and we're still going to be at the bottom of the barrel on that. So I hope that you would look at it that way and let your council member know that that's what we want, and that's what we want back. And we gave up 6 years. It's time to pay the piper. Thank you very much.
William Bakehouse will be followed by Chuck Jones, and then that's all the cards I have. If anybody is here to speak and they haven't had an opportunity to, please fill out a card and let us know. William.
Hello, my name is William Bakehouse.
I'm actually John Webb's coworker. The two of us go to work every day. We're proud to serve our first responders. We have 2 fire trucks that are, I believe they're pumpers. They're ready to get repaired from accidents. They're waiting. We can't get parts. But when they get there, they're our first ones to go. We have, I think at this time, about 33 police units that have been in accidents. Those vehicles are on the road more than any other vehicle that we have. And we do it every day, just the 2 of us. We don't complain. We just get the job done. I came here 10 years ago, and I was proud and excited to be able to actually do something for the city of Phoenix. I was born here and raised here, and I was always excited to tell anybody, I work for the city of Phoenix. But right now, I feel like we have a council that's not on our side. And we've been on your side, and we've helped the best that we could. And it's time for everybody, every City of Phoenix employee, to get the compensation that they deserve. To get just back to where we were at when you needed help. We gave it, they gave it, some people gave more. We have this officer here who, thank you. Thank you for your service. That's about all I have. I would ask the citizens, I'm in support of option 1, and I would ask you to support the same. Thank you.
Chuck Jones, we do have one card from Sarah Simpson, who does not wish to speak. I'm in agreement of budget option number 1, not in agreement with more police officers. We have enough. I'm in agreement with raising City of Phoenix employee salaries in addition to parks and other services for the city. Thank you, Sarah. Chuck Jones.
I am Chuck Jones. I've lived in the Grandview neighborhood at 9th Avenue and Campbell for the last 11 years. I've been in Phoenix for 35 years. I work at the historic federal building downtown for the U.S. Postal Service, and I see city, county, and state employees every day that I'm at work. And I thank each one of them for their service because I know that they're all undercompensated, that they get short shrift every time it comes to the budget. And they need to not only have the cuts restored, but they need salary increases. And toward that end, I just want to briefly touch on 4 revenue streams that council never seems to want to consider. My short 4-mile drive to work on down 7th Avenue, reverse lanes are not, that's not the issue, but it's like a war zone. And they say, well, we don't have enough police for enforcement. The cost of tickets should cover the cost of enforcement. The court cost and the ticket cost should cover the cost. It should be awashed. So the idea that we don't have money to police the streets for common courtesy and stuff and traffic violations. A guy blew past me doing 55 in a 35 zone near Thomas Road the other day and was blowing his horn at somebody making a legal turn, left turn out of the thing on a side street, and there are no police around. The reason the reverse lanes are dangerous is because there are no police to enforce the rules. So the first revenue stream, the cost of enforcement, should cover everything. The second one deals with the county assessor, and we're talking about a property tax increase. In the year 2000, the county assessor went to a computer model which lowballs home prices. And my modest $100,000 house in 2000 got a $60,000 increase. And I've never mentioned the name before, but Jerry Colangelo's nice little house, which is the first one behind the Phoenix Country Club clubhouse, got an increase of 0.5%. And one of the producers on Horizon put me on Horizon with Kevin Ross that year, and also with David Schweikert, who was the head of the Board of Equalization. And there was a 15% county-wide average. And when I asked Kevin Ross in the green room why 0.5% for a millionaire, he said we must not have had enough market data. But the county assessor's modeling system is broken. It has been for 16 years. There's not a homeowner in here who would sell their house for even probably a 50% higher multiple of what the home is assessed for. And mine is the same. The statutes say full cash value. It should be somewhere around 85% at least, but frequently they're at 60%. And you need only look in the North Central News or any of the other tabloids where the realtors advertise and look up the property online and see that it's assessed for half or 2/3 of what it's worth. So if the properties were assessed at their fair values, there would not be a need for a property tax at this time. The third revenue stream would be in dealing with abuser fees. As I drive from 7th Avenue to 1st on Fillmore, there are knee-high and higher weeds on properties owned by carpetbaggers who live in far-flung places who are waiting for the right offer to come along or the right discount from the city on development, and there is no enforcement on keeping those properties neat and clean. I actually live across the street from a apartment complex that burned 3 years ago, and it burned 6 weeks after I called the fire department to say, can't you do something? It is an abandoned property, the owners don't care, the fence is like Swiss cheese, and the fire person said, no, you just need to keep working with neighborhood services. And neighborhood services does not have enough staff. That staff, they're the property manager of last resort. And if someone has to come to your home, they send you a polite letter at first. If someone has to come to your home and finds a problem, there should be a fee for that. Right now, there's no fee, and whether it's other city ordinances like illegal signs, someone comes and says, well, just don't do that again. Nobody ever assesses the fees. And the fourth revenue stream would be the planning commission. Thousands of dollars are spent for hearings, and then things are never built, and the city is out the money. There should be some kind of completion bond, and there should be some kind of revenue coming back to the city if those are never built. But I don't understand the conservative value that you think you can run a city with no revenues. I really don't.
Are there anybody else? Is there anybody else that would like to speak? It's your opportunity. Now, just to cover too, this is again just a trial budget. There's chances for this thing to change, and it does repeatedly. I think the last meeting we're going to have on this is going to be, when is it going to be? July?
So May 3rd, we present the next budget, the council votes on May 17th, and then all the formal adoptions take place all the way up to July 1st.
July 1st. And so if you'll have an opportunity to speak again, do we have any more budget hearings? I think we had 3 tonight, right?
That's right. Tomorrow night, there is a budget hearing tomorrow night at Burton Bar Library. And then next week, it's on, let me see here. It is on page 13 of the book. So tomorrow night at Burton Bar Library, next at 6 o'clock. All these are at 6 o'clock. Tomorrow night, Wednesday, April 13th at Burton Bar. Tuesday, April 19th at 6 o'clock at the Golette Buff Community Center at 35th Avenue and Pinnacle Peak Road. And also on April 19th is a special hearing for youth oriented to our young people at Metro Tech High School at 19th and Thomas. Those are the final 3 budget hearings.
And then we start the public process again through the city of Phoenix, which you're invited to come as well. Thank you for coming out tonight. Again, I know this is hard on your families. You had to leave your families to come over here, but we really do appreciate the fact that you did come out to hear the budget presentation, the 16-minute presentation, and then your comments. We've got all the comments were written down, and we'll provide a summary to the entire council right before we vote. So thank you for coming out. Good night.
You have been watching a community budget hearing held recently in Phoenix. For questions, comments, or ideas, please visit phoenix.gov or call 602-262-4800. You can also send feedback through social media by using #PhoenixBudget. This video can also be seen online at phoenix.gov/PHXTV or youtube.com/City of Phoenix AZ.